What's going on, everybody? Non-TCG here, and it's been a while since we've gone through Pokemon Center ETBs, and there's some pretty interesting market action here on both the positive and a little bit of the negative, which is somewhat expected. But before we go into this, just want to mention, did the announcement yesterday in our Discord. We now have the stock tracker application or a stock tracker application. So if you guys join the Discord, we do have a section where we can check stock on certain items, and we also get notifications of when items are in stock. Just to help the community kind of see when things are there and when things aren't. So anyway, just want to go through Pokemon Center ETBs, and I effectively have run the singles based on the December 26th to 129 date. I actually kept the ETBs back to the beginning of December because it's a little bit more interesting that way. So SV base, the Koraidon is up, about 44% from 105 to 151, which is really interesting. However, the quantity has gone up from about 24 listed or from 17 to 24. Pretty much expected, 41% additional supply. And we're going to see that with the SV-based Miraidon, Paldean Evolved, Obsidian 151. Obviously, as the prices have gone through the ceiling, gone through the roof, a lot of it effectively flat for the last, call it 2 months. A little bit less. Paldean Evolved up 14%, so from 220 to 251. Whether you're getting there on a lot of booster boxes or getting, within spitting distance, if you will. Obsidian Flames, a little stagnant now. 275. It was 265 a month and a half 2 months ago. Scarlet Violet 151. From 280 to 379. This just will not stop. It looks like all of the restocks coming are either the Blooming Waters, massive EX waste of space product, or booster bundles. And there's booster bundles everywhere right now. The price is still relatively high. I know GTS just came out with $590 for a full display, so $59 per, effectively an at market price, which isn't completely surprising. But the price is moving on that, and 151 again. There's 50 on the market now, so you would anticipate the higher the price goes, the more it's going to shake loose. This one's super interesting for me. Paradox, the two Paradox, Roaring Moon and the Iron Valiant. Roaring Moon is flat over the last 2 months. Iron Valiant is actually up about 7.6%, but the volumes have been stagnant to down slightly. But I would expect at some point Paradox Rift is going to move here. I know the booster boxes are up in the 150 range. I kind of expected them to be closer to 170, 175, especially with some of the cards in the set moving up, but that hasn't happened yet. The biggest mover here is Paldean Fates. Paldean Fates Pokemon Center ETBs are now at $190, and the Bubble Mew's going absolutely nuts. The Charizard, a couple other cards. But what's interesting is Paldean Fates supply is actually down from 39 to 35, and when we start to look at the singles, what's interesting is the Mimikyu still has a lot of volume on the market. From 54 down to 42. But it's selling 5 to 10 copies a day. So it quite honestly looks like the Paldean Fates Pokemon Center ETB had a ton of the product just get ripped, which kind of makes sense where, the promo card is, it's doing okay, lukewarm, but the sealed ETBs going absolutely crazy. The two temporals, again, this is super, super bullish for me, especially with, the booster boxes of temporal, and again, still available in Pokemon Center with a ton of volume there, which is still a little head scratching. I figured that would shake loose at some point, but it hasn't yet. So Walking Wake and Iron Leaves both around $90 in early December. The Walking Wake's 120, Iron Leaves is 110, so up 30 and 22% respectively. And then Walking Wake is down 40%, and Iron Leaves is down 31%. So only just a 41 across both of them that are available for sale, which is really fascinating, because those two in the 2 Paradox have super tight print runs. I think one's 42.5 and the other's like 47.5 per. Twilight Masquerade, we've had a lot of buying in that and some follow through, where the price remains at $94. Call it 6% up over the last month and a half. But this is also after a massive dump of 20,000 units in the United States and Canadian market. And the volume was 104 in December. It's call it 140 now. So there's some additional volume on the market, but it seems like it's working through and it's starting to move in the right direction. Shrouded Fable. This is super interesting, because the actual regular ETBs are pushing $45. Probably going to push 50 soon. There have been buyouts for Houndoom, Persian, some of the cards in the set that are pushing $80, $90 now. But this is still available at MSRP with over 20,000 Pokemon Center. But it's interesting because this is, it's up 11.4%. So it's getting to the point that once this ticks under 20,000, it's going to sell out in probably a week and a half, because everybody's going to want it. And these things are going to go probably to $100, $120. And ultimately, it's an unloved set that's going to become a love set. So it's really interesting. And then the volume's down a little bit, or the supply from 70 to 61. Moving on to Stellar Crown, not a whole lot there. I mean, the price wise, we're from 99 up to 118. That's been flat for the last, call it, month or so. And then volume, set or 32 in the market, 37 about a month and a half ago. But this is still available in the UK, at 7,000 units or so. So there's still certainly going to be supply getting to the US, especially at the $118 price point. It makes sense to pay the fees and ship it overseas. Surging Sparks, this has slowed down a little bit. 52 last week, 147 the week before, 53 this week. So it's up 23% in the last month and a half. But the most interesting thing is the supply continues to erode. So 184 shortly after release and 104 now. So 43.5% reduction in volume. And what's interesting is the Magneton. And let's go down to the bottom here. We can kind of work our way up. Was it $50? And here, I just pulled the month comparison, so I dropped the first week off because, I didn't start tracking singles until the 26th of December. $50 up to $70 last week, and now it's back down to 61. So it's up 22%. But what's interesting is we've had a massive spike in supply in the market from 29, 17, 20 up to 69. So a lot of this product is getting ripped as well, which is super interesting. Especially for, I guess, for the longest time, you could buy the boxes for 120, 130. And if you could sell the singles for 60, you're basically getting an ETB +2 for another 60, $70, which is fantastic value versus what the ETBs are selling for now. So Knockdown, up 17% or $6 or whatever on 35 in the last month. And the volume's way down. So Knockdown is selling 52 down to 30, 35. Petrunt at $20. This is kind of a card that's dead in the water. Now, if you think Shrouded's going to move at some point, it's probably worth accumulating a bunch of these, because at some point it's not going to sell for $20. But again, you have the version in the set, you have this one, you have the version that just reprinted in I think 2 different styles in Prismatic Evolutions. So there's a lot of it out there. Teal Mask Ogerpon, this is interesting. So it's up $2, but the volume's way down from 79 down to 36. So I don't know if this is moving or not. Again, another card that was just reprinted, pretty heavily in Prismatic Evolutions. So moving on to the 2 temporals, not a whole lot price action wise, down a little bit, up a little bit. The volume's up on these, which is interesting. And I wonder if the volume's up because some of these are getting ripped and with a little bit of negative EV. Because again, if you can get $30-$40 for the single and you're only paying $70 for it, which is effectively what the price was back in November, there's a little bit of arbitrage there. Paldean Fate's Mimikyu. Again, this is interesting. The price is up $5, But there's been a ton of this moved, and it's only a reduction of 12 on the supply side, but there's been so much volume and so much sell through in this. There's just a bunch of it out there for now, and eventually it's going to dry up. Screamtail, Iron Bundle. Again, these are kind of whatever. Not much talking about. Snorlax has slowed down a little bit in the last couple weeks, but it's up 41%. And then, you're down a couple copies. The same with Charmander, down a couple copies here. But again, you're down week over week. But again, the card's up 20%, and there's it's gone absolutely parabolic. Pikachu up 48%. It's down a little bit here, and all of a sudden there's a bunch on the market. And then the Miraidon again. Both of these are up 44%, 45%, 47 to 68 to 75, and it's bringing volume into the market. So I think the main takeaways are some of these ETBs as the volume has skyrocketed, or the price has skyrocketed. It has shaken a lot of supply out into the market. The most interesting thing is really just the price of Paldean Fates ETBs continues to absolutely skyrocket and effectively follow the singles. And then the surging Sparks ETB continues to just erode from a supply perspective, and that's going to keep working. And I actually forgot about Prismatic Eevee. So 269, but there's 198 of them, and there's almost no sales. It's almost like the $269 price point. Just it's nobody has an appetite for it right now, especially given the amount of product that's just been dumped on the market. Because quite honestly, it's a quick flip for anybody who can get it at MSRP. I would imagine over the next couple of weeks we'll work through that, and we'll continue our march upward. But for right now, if you can buy a regular ETB for $110, and this is $269, and the promo's only running $100, $120. There's not a real whole heck of a lot of value here. And then the Eevee right now is selling for $120. 53 of these, and again, there hasn't been a whole lot of sell through. So you hit these high price points right after release, and this is really the first instance where I've seen people kind of throw up on it a little bit because it hasn't made a whole lot of sense. So anyway, guys, subscribe to the channel. A lot of good things coming, especially into the end of February. Join the Discord. And like I said, we do have the stock notifications live now. Super cheap, super helpful group. The base Discord is obviously free. So anyway, guys, we'll talk soon and have a good night.